You have one person who can become the bottleneck. If they leave, if they are stretched thin across other projects, that's when your execution stops. The constraint isn't strategic thinking. The constraint is actually throughput.
Before you would hire someone, I would recommend thinking what your constraint is. Is it intelligence and judgment, or is it output and execution? What are you seeing in the marketplace? How do you see it playing out?
I mean, certainly brands still need teams, or people still need to be involved in the process. But I think a lot of brands tend to default to we need to hire someone when they start to see their life cycle marketing stalling or challenges with their systems. And look, like, ownership matters, but hiring has real trade-offs, and they don't always get talked about. So that means the recruiting process might take months, onboarding, ramp. And even after that, you have one person who can become the bottleneck. You're still copying and pasting HTML. But if that person is on vacation, if they leave, if they are stretched thin across other projects, that's when your execution stops. And, for a lot of brands, the constraint isn't strategic thinking. They know what good lifecycle marketing campaigns look like. The constraint is actually throughput, the ability to consistently produce these high quality campaigns, test variations, refresh flows, kind of keep that engine running. And that's where we're seeing more brands think about execution systems, ways to start to get, that consistent output without waiting months to hire the right person, or ultimately being dependent on a single person's capacity. It's both really. What do you think, Lou?
I think that totally makes sense. I mean, before you would hire someone, I would recommend thinking what your constraint is. Is it intelligence and judgment, or is it output and execution? Right? Because there are ways with AI to really increase execution without increasing payroll, right? You can get started quickly by introducing an execution system without introducing a ton of monthly overhead. And ultimately, we're talking about hiring, but I do want to point out, like, the goal is not really to have fewer people. Like, I love working with people.
Yeah.
I love having a good team.
Yeah.
But ultimately, what you're trying to do is achieve higher output, right? And that, if you keep that as the focus, I think that's when using an execution system inside of Klaviyo or similar platform really starts to come into focus.
Right. And having people who are working on the creativity, the strategy, like the things that are fun, that are gratifying, not the moving things around and pushing buttons side of the work.
Right, totally. Take away that on-keyboard grunt work part, and running a lifecycle marketing program becomes a lot more fun and a lot more creative.
Yeah.
There's something there. I mean, it kind of ties into something I've heard Klaviyo talk about in the past, which is marketer independence. Right? Like, in the past, you have an idea, you want to execute on an email campaign or a new flow, and it's hard because then you need a developer, a designer, someone in QA, and it makes the marketer be constrained. Right? And now with some of these tools, they have new degrees of freedom, because you have an idea, you can vibe code something, you can get something out quickly, you can tap into an app or another system to just like build it, try it. And that's like turns out to be a very big unlock in terms of productivity.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, I've talked to a bunch of brands, and one of the things I've noticed is that kind of on their growth journey, one of the things that feels like a milestone is hiring a lifecycle marketer, right? Someone to actually be in charge of that Klaviyo account.
Yeah.
But, as kind of AI has developed and agents are available and APIs are available, it seems like things are changing, because, that hire, it does put somebody in charge, and you really solved the ownership equation.
Totally.
But it doesn't necessarily fully solve the execution part of the equation. Like, a lot of it just comes out to that individual person. Like, are they good? Do they know how to run the ship?